I call this poem the Freire Dare after the late Brazilian educator Paulo Freire. He wrote, education either functions as an instrument, which is used to facilitate integration of the younger generation into the logic of the present system and bring about conformity, or it becomes the practice of freedom, the means by which men and women deal critically and creatively with reality and discover how to participate in the transformation of the world. Paulo Freire, the Freire Dare. I have a dare that you remember Freire, the first time you studied pedagogy of the oppressed back in grad school. Do you dare remember Freire? Dare that you go there to live, remembering how unfair it was to be laughed at or judged for accepting food stamps while teaching college? Dare that you go there to remember qualifying for every tax credit, but never paying taxes for causes you hated simply because you were another professor below the poverty line? Dare to Freire, remember to care that the debt, that the fees, that the new construction and all the needs of the academic beast can trace their lineage to those things colonial, imperial, carceral, industrial, settler, racist, militarist, capitalist. Even though you are sober from booze, how long have you been drunk on your own humanitarian impulse that your white male tenured privilege is a victimless crime? Remember Freire. Take a dare to remember Freire, to know that most of your colleagues really don't lose sleep thinking about this shit. Take a deep inhale to abandon any attachment to your status as a tenured radical like armchair leftist professors before you. Remember Freire. Take a dare. If you take this dare, grow back your hair. Learn not to care what the haters say on any given day, when always all ready to empower the students was never about any coercion or carceral model of graded exclusion, some arbitrary ranking of the greatest delusion. Who were the propertarian people who convinced us that we spend even 1 second of our too short lives with a plagiarism checker, with speculation about an 18-year-old's motive when submitting an essay for my required undergrad writing class, when they are here surviving a pandemic education and are perhaps seeking more meaning and human mentoring than worrying about punishment from a poorly paid, poorly equipped member of the pedagogy plagiarism police? Let me just throw plagiarism on the fire, or on the compost heap, throw it out with the pretensions of academic freedom and the idea that we need face-to-face conferences and corporate hotels, flying on corporate airplanes, polluting this dying planet to present a paper about ecology or theology to 10 people sipping bad coffee out of disposable cups or chugging bottled water from a plastic chalice that is killing the ocean. Let us throw that all away, take the Freire Dare and all the used copies of the MLA manual or the Harbrace handbook. Let me just toss them all on the bonfires of our endless arrogance and hypocrisy. Remember Freire. Do you dare, or will you ever care that the subjects you teach by necessity always include their own obsolescence and the red-hot passion of real poetry and real revolution? So get off your tenured high horse. Sure, this may be a form of so-called livelihood, but teaching was never your whole life. If you remember Freire and your bell hooks and even your Raoul Vanagem and your crime thing too, it was never about a career. It was never, ever about you. And now that you remember all this shit, stop your crying, whining fit, for we have a world on fire. We have species committing mass suicide, not to mention homicide, ecocide on an unimaginable scale. So if from this job you bail, there is more work for the people than saving your ego or pride. And now remember in your bones that over 4 decades of your engagement in this movement, you have only taken different drugs, from booze to theology to a well-paying job, to self-medicate your healthy outrage at the horrible moral cost of being an American, of being a white person. And if some racist internet troll or some local fascist talking shit on Facebook and speculation about your morals or motivations is the consequence of cutting ties with peace for the sake of peace. Well, there is no peace, so be it. But that university you ever tried to love, this university that you love, or that university has never had a real function but to uphold the society of slaveholders, prison builders, war makers, body haters, money makers, land takers, and religious fakers. Do you dare to remember your Freire? Then you won't care what happens with this complaint, this investigation, or the job that was never more than a temporary coat of paint, like some aesthetic makeover or cheap deodorant to cover the rusty, dirty, ugly, smelly, multicolored reality of life bursting from within itself at the wondrous and magical imaginal seams. And that you got away with it, whatever minimal good within that system for as long as you did, well, brilliant. Just another scam, like when you had to crawl into a dumpster to eat or drive and dash without paying just to get to the next town, when you had to steal the books you wanted to read instead of pay for them. Please, 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 please don't kid yourself. Wages are not remuneration, but the language of transaction and inaction, exploitation and domination. Don't be such a cheap date, son frog. Whatever time you got left on this earth is so freaking priceless. And the world of our dreams is still waiting. And like Saul Williams said on that Adbusters mixtape back in 2002, another world is possible. And we pledge to make it real. Take the Freire Dare with me, won't you please? Take the Freire Dare with me.